Away we go. Hello, it's Anthony Harcher from Me and My Wellness, and this is the second episode of Me and My Health Chats. Today we have someone I know really well through my studies, studying nutrition. So it's Kirsty Taylor, and she's from The Nourishing Way, and she's got a really nice journey to share with us about her gut health and hence her journey into understanding more about her gut and what's going on. And through that journey, and plus her studies, has developed incredible insight as to what people can do to heal their gut. So this episode is all about helping you to solve your gut problems using the expertise of Kirsty Taylor. So I'd like to welcome everyone to Kirsty Taylor.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Yes. And where are you joining us from?
I am in the UK at the moment, so a little county called Wiltshire.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
I haven't been there, but it looks very peaceful. I mean,
It is.
your background.
Very nice.
Yeah, so Kirsty, I'm really intrigued about hearing your story. I've certainly personally haven't heard it, so I'm intrigued as much as the viewers are to hear about your journey with gut health.
Well, my gut health definitely links also to my rosacea. And if people don't know what that is, that's kind of the redness on the skin, which at the moment is going down, which I will get to. So they are very much linked, and it's kind of really hard to pinpoint exactly when they kind of both began. It was probably sort of that, I would say around 2014, 2015. Even though I was, quote unquote, eating healthy and exercising a lot, I was putting on weight, and my general health sort of started to decline around the same time. At the same time also had hormonal issues. So it was kind of the hormonal and gut stuff really sort of started to come together. And then that turned into the rosacea, and the skin progressively got worse. I started to react to lots of food I was eating, and like even the healthy food. So it didn't matter what I was eating, it was sort of, I was finding I was having issues with it. And I think probably what most people don't appreciate is the effect on the quality of life that both of those conditions can have. So if you have gut issues and quite bad, like you don't want to go out because you don't want to eat certain foods, or, you need to be sometimes close to a bathroom. And same with like skin conditions, whether it's rosacea or like psoriasis or even eczema and stuff, like depending where it is on your body, it can actually make you feel quite self-conscious. So that actually like definitely become an issue. Life was getting super busy and stressful at the time as well, which definitely always links into those kind of things. So yeah, it was through probably having the rosacea that I really found my passion and link with SIBO.
Okay.
So, because those two are quite related, and a lot
SIBO,
of my symptoms.
what's, just for the viewers that don't understand. Yeah, what's that?
It is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth.
Okay.
So it's basically where bacteria that should be living in other parts of your body. Mm-hmm. So whether it's down in your large intestine, and they're even finding that sometimes bacteria from your mouth can be in your small intestine, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But the reason, so this bacteria is good. Like if you normally have it, it's fantastic. It's just meant to be in the right spots. So it's not meant to be in your small intestine. And that can then lead to a whole host of different health problems. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. And that, I suppose, through that journey led me to study nutrition. And that's how I met you. That's how I ended up at Endeavour, because I just got such a passion for it, because I suppose I could see the benefits it was having on me, and I wanted to do that for everyone.
And what were you doing prior to nutrition? What was your life?
I was always in operations management. So for either supermarkets, so I worked for Aldi, and I also worked at Wendy's, the ice cream company, if people remember that. Yeah. So I literally went, and I used to make ice cream for a living. So
Oh,
I
wow.
went, make it and sell it. So I have definitely done the whole 180. Not that
Yeah.
ice cream is bad. We definitely still enjoy that. But yeah, I went from a very high sugary, high carb, kind of caffeine fueled existence to
Yeah.
where I eat now.
Wow. We'll get it.
Yeah.
We'll get on to what you eat now, but just on the SIBO front,
Mm-hmm.
what sort of symptoms come as a result of SIBO?
Oh, pretty much any of your gastrointestinal symptoms. So it can be bloating, belching, the constipation, diarrhea, alternating. It's actually really linked with IBS. So if people like think about those IBS style symptoms, like a lot of pain, in a lot of wind, they literally think that so basically I think the figures are around 11% of the population have IBS, and up to 80% of people with IBS generally have SIBO. So between, I think it's like 60 or 80. So it's in the IBS population, it's actually quite prevalent.
And how do they distinguish between IBS and SIBO?
It's done through a breath test. So you take a solution and then you breathe into tubes sort of every 20 minutes. And your body will produce two gases as it digests and ferments food, which is, again, quite natural, hydrogen and methane.
Right.
But it's when those spike too much and too quickly. And that's how you know that the fermenting's happening in the wrong spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so people that may be experiencing this, what can they do about it? Like, what's the first? What would you recommend the first step be if you're experiencing these symptoms you mentioned, belching and feeling bloated, and that intermittent constipation, diarrhea? What would be the first point of call?
Well, obviously, I would think you should go and see a natural health person. But so because you do want to know if it is a SIBO that you're dealing with. Because it could be something else. Like I said, it's between 60 and 80. There could be something else going on, and we want to know what that is. There is one thing you really need to address is the underlying conditions that can cause SIBO, of which there are heaps, and they fall into sort of four main categories. So you look at impaired motility. So that's basically that wave that pushes your food down through, basically from your throat all the way down out to your bottom. So if something happens that impairs that motility, it can cause food to sit in the small intestine too long and start to ferment. And that can literally be something like food poisoning, but a severe food poisoning. So if you've had it for more than 24 hours, it could be possible. A traumatic brain injury. So if you've had a fall, how many people fall off bikes or fall off horses? And, you might do that and it might not cause SIBO, but some people it will. Hypothyroidism slows everything down. So that kind of stuff. Definitely have impaired digestion. So when your stomach acid isn't strong enough, maybe you've got poor bile flow, being in that, stressed out chronic fight or flight situation, that definitely impairs your digestion. And let's face it, that is definitely a trigger for a lot of people. Then we've got things like that impair the flow through the intestines. So it's basically a result of adhesions. So you might have had an abdominal surgery like appendicitis. Endometriosis is a huge one, and that's getting more and more common in females. And then medications. So people literally take anti-diarrhea medications like Imodium, and this can actually stop it. So can things like antidepressants and even your cholesterol lowering drugs. So there is a lot, but I think addressing those, you need to make sure you're addressing those. Otherwise, there's no point treating the rest of us. It's going to keep coming back.
And what do medicine do in relation to, yes, they could diagnose it, but what's their treatment? How would they support someone through this?
They probably wouldn't even diagnose it, unfortunately. It's not something that they are really looking at as, I suppose, a legitimate cause at the moment, which is unfortunate. There is definitely huge amount of research being done, which I think is really helping it.
Yes.
So that is definitely be coming up, but they won't generally send someone for a breath test. Unfortunately, that's something you have to do through a natural health practitioner, and you do have to pay for it at the moment.
Right. Okay.
But I know in the US it's a little bit different. They have their naturopathic doctors, and some people also find that when you treat something else with antibiotics, it can actually help your SIBO, and that's because it's having an effect of killing the bacteria.
Yeah.
So they can actually help, but it's obviously not in a purposeful way. It's more of a side effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there any genetic predisposition to this? Like, can parents or anyone? Is there anything?
No, unless something like, I mean, things like hypothyroidism could be genetic. So it depends. Some of the underlying symptoms could definitely be genetic. Endometriosis can sometimes be genetic, but not the actual SIBO. It's more the underlying causes.
Okay. And then so your approach is very much find that underlying cause, and you work with that underlying cause. So just say it's, you know, stress related, you'll work with the client on the stress side of things. Is there anything you do concurrently you know, once you've found that underlying root cause to help alleviate symptoms or?
I follow Dr. Noella Jacoby's protocol.
Okay.
So she's an Australian naturopathic doctor, and she's known as a SIBO doctor. So she's like the queen of SIBO. And she has developed with Alison Seabacker, someone in the US, a biphasic protocol. So we start off and the first phase of the diet, and it is a little bit restrictive, but it is a therapeutic diet. So we don't expect people to be on it for a long time. And the idea is you get the symptoms down. So you try and give people that relief. And that probably goes for around 4 weeks you're looking at. And then hopefully by that time you've got your test results back, and you know if you're dealing with methane, hydrogen, or both. And then you can then use your antimicrobials, which is what we would use as natural health practitioners to kill off some of that bacteria. And at the same time, you start adding some foods back, but you do it really gently and obviously monitor their symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's, I guess, how do people best contact you if, you know, if they're experiencing these symptoms and feeling, you know, discomfort and it's been happening for a number of years? How do they get into contact with you? How do they get help?
On my website is thenourishingway.com.au, so you can find me there, or literally if you look up The Nourishing Way on Facebook or Instagram, I always hang out there, and that's probably the easiest way to find me.
And you obviously consult online like we are doing today on Zoom.
Absolutely.
And in terms of ISO, you know, it's obviously very topical at the moment. And you mentioned stress. So there could be potentially, you know, more instances where people are feeling more these gastrointestinal symptoms and, So there's and it could be, you know, I guess the predisposition to what, you know, what coming out of ISO is, you know, it was triggered by the isolation or the limitations or the stress of, you know, being in this pandemic.
I think too, being in isolation has probably made people stop and even pay attention to their symptoms. Because I know for me, like when I was in those jobs working sort of 50 hours a week, and you're like, you don't have time to be sick, or you don't even listen to your body. So your body might be giving you these little whispers, and, you know, you might start getting bloated after meals, and then it starts, you know, becoming, you know, maybe you get a little bit more constipated, or the diarrhea starts to happen a little bit more, or the belching starts, and like it's just these little things keep adding on. And before you know it, it's this. So I think isolation has probably helped a lot of people stop and maybe listen to their body for the first time.
Yeah.
So, it might not be gastrointestinal symptoms, it could be anything. So, I think isolation can be actually good for some people to be able to allow them to. So one of my favorite sayings, listen to your body whisper so it doesn't have to scream.
Yeah, very true, actually.
Yes.
Very true. Get it in the early days. And
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, is there any ways of preventing this? So what can people do on that prevention front to avoid getting SIBO? SIBO.
I think, you definitely could prevent it by working on some of those triggers, especially if you're like prone to those type of things. And I think once you've had SIBO, so personally, I have had it. And when I treated it the first time, so I did that back, I think it was in 2016, it came back. But I was still working my 50-hour-a-week job. I still had a lot of stress. And at the time, the person I was working with, we've come a long way in 4 years in terms of like all the research and stuff. And, together we didn't work enough on those underlying symptoms, which is why that's such a big part of it for me now. And I must say, I'm currently treating it again now. So it takes me the next 4 years, which again is great in ISO because it doesn't matter if you're on a restricted diet because you're just at home. So it's like the perfect time to do these things. But it's being aware of the triggers too, because if, say you've got hypothyroidism and, you might feel like your digestion is generally a little bit sluggish. Well, you could work to make sure that that doesn't then become SIBO, because obviously it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
But if you start noticing, or maybe I'm only going to the toilet every second day, you want to obviously get that food moving through. So working on stuff to improve your motility. Same with digestion. If you notice you get a little bit more burpy than usual, or maybe that's your stomach acid. So what can we do to help that? And periods of stress. We all know that like instantly can affect our digestion. So if you're going through those stressful times, just being aware of them and just finding times, even if it's for 5 minutes, to do some really deep belly breaths. It's just amazing how much, and it's always the simple things I find that have the biggest impact. Yeah.
So really, managing that stress side of things and listening to your body. And in order to, you mentioned the motility, doing something about that, what can you do, from a nutritionist point of view, in terms of helping with that motility?
I mean, there's definitely some supplements that we can give that help that. It's called a prokinetic, and the idea is that it helps that motility wave. But some of my favorite ones are actually not food related. So gargling water, because the thing that actually helps is the vagus nerve that runs from our brain to our gut. So stimulating that vagus nerve, which actually runs down the back of our throat, which is why things like singing really loudly work. So in the shower, at the moment we can't really go for long drives, but when we can drive again, turn the music up, sing at the really loud, it's gargling water, humming. So if you're into, again, you can sort of use them both. If you want to meditate to help your stress, if you do some chanting, that can really help as well. So those stimulating the vagus nerve can be, and they're fun things to do. People feel like they're idiots, but once you start doing it, it actually, I don't know, bring back a little giggling and joy in your life too, which I think is missing sometimes.
Absolutely. A bit of car karaoke.
Exactly.
Singing in the shower.
I mean, how good does everyone sound in the shower? So good.
That sounds like fun.
Exactly.
Easy to do. And it's good for you, and it helps, helps prevent SIBO, or helps lower the symptomatic profile, and helps, as you said, with motility. What would be your number one tip in helping someone through ISO at the moment? What would you suggest?
Oh, so many. Well, I think the best one for me has actually been nature therapy. I have found that if I can get outside, again, not food related, but I think it just is so important. Even if it's just putting your feet in the grass with some sunshine on your face. But I really like long walks, just really sitting out there and appreciating it. I think that just, again, getting out of the space, moving some energy definitely is a help.
So that real, yeah, I guess appreciation for the world as it is, and how it
Yeah.
presents itself, and engaging with it. So what you're saying is, taking off the shoes and connecting with the
Yeah.
grass, and observing the beauty, that hidden beauty that we often oversee. When we're running around, as
Yeah.
you said, doing those 50-hour weeks, and ISO allows us, well, it's forced us into slowing down. So
Yep.
we can
Yep.
now appreciate what's around us.
And
Which
it's
is,
quiet. Like the
yeah,
world, I mean, it is definitely getting a bit busier now. I know in Australia you guys can move around a lot more, and even like obviously the first 2 weeks we were in lockdown here in the UK, it was definitely quiet, and people are, I think, a little bit more getting out and doing those nature walks now. So it's definitely, you can hear the world waking up a little bit, but it's still really quite peaceful, and yeah, so nice. So I
yeah.
really quite like that. What would your tip be?
I'm
Out of
very much,
curiosity.
I'm very much that nature person. So
Yep.
yeah, I love nature. I love getting out. I grew up on 5 acres, so I love the bush, and love playing in the dirt, and
Yeah.
uh, growing up near the sea, going down to the ocean, going for an ocean
Yeah.
swim, and just really being with it. Like, that's what I love about ocean swimming is, you're moving with the waves, and, you just allowing your body to feel it. And
Yeah.
I find, you get into a nice rhythm, and with the sun shining on you, it's just amazing. It's peaceful and relaxing, and yeah, it really calms me.
Oh, you've just made me miss the beach. Like,
Yeah.
as soon as I can drive, that's where I'm going. I'm heading down the beach.
Well, it's been so wonderful to have you on, Kirsty, and thanks for sharing all your tips around SIBO, and what can people look out for in terms of the symptomatic profile. What can they do in terms of who to contact, who to best go to, and obviously someone with your expertise that has a lived experience, that's now qualified in treating it, that understands what works, what doesn't work, because you've been through it yourself. You're now treating
Yeah.
clients with SIBO. So really appreciate the time you've put aside to really share your knowledge with the viewers as to what they can do to help improve their gut health. And particularly, I loved all your tips around stress management. It's
Yeah.
something that confronts all of us, and particularly
Yeah.
more so than ever in today's current climate. So yeah, I really appreciate the time. And viewers, please get in touch with Kirsty Taylor from The Nourishing Way. So Google The Nourishing Way, or just put in your browser thenourishingway.com.au, and you'll go to Kirsty's website. There's contact details on how to reach her on that, as well as Facebook is another way in which you can contact Kirsty. So is there any last concluding comment you'd like to share with the viewers before we sign out? And
I think if you do go into any kind of treatment for a chronic disease, because generally if people have SIBO, it is a chronic disease, because they've usually gone to the doctors a few times, wondering what their symptoms are. Obviously, they haven't been diagnosed with anything particular, so they've usually had it for quite a while. And yeah, again, with anything chronic, remember that the path back to healing is a marathon, not a sprint. So don't expect to get results like that. It is that very slow, gradual pace. And when you cross that finish line, it makes it all the more exciting.
I love that concluding message. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a marathon and not a sprint. And to
Yeah.
have that, if you have that expectation, you're working on going through that journey and focused on the process as you outlaid in terms of your treatment protocol for SIBO. You're just
Yeah.
doing the process, doing it day in and day out, and eventually over time things will heal, and you'll feel so much better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom, Kirsty, and have a great day. I know it's the
It's
start
been
of
my
your day.
pleasure. Yes.
Yeah. Take care. See you
See
later.
ya.
Bye
Bye.
bye.